Okay, Medeco FireKing locks. If you've ever seen a 2 or 4 drawer FireKing cabinet, more than likely it was secured with a Medeco cylinder. They're certainly not the only ones that have ever made anything for it, but since the mid-90s it's been pretty much synonymous with Medeco. Actually, if you were looking at the cabinet head on at the topmost drawer, you know, this is pretty much what you're going to see. And around here, this part's going to be all the metal cabinet, usually that beige finish, but also sometimes in gray. But right now we're in the lock position, so this is what you'd see. This isn't per se what locks everything entirely. This is just kind of half of the hardware required to lock any of those cabinets. Inside the top drawer on the right side, this post will interact with kind of a pawl-like mechanism that's spring-loaded. When it's locked, you're pushing against that spring, which in turn will raise a bar to lock the topmost cabinet from the bottom. When that's unlocked, it springs down. I'll show you. Put your key in, you unlock, that'll pop out. See, I have to do it manually, but normally that spring's pushing against it. Now, when that spring pushes against it, that bar will drop down underneath that top cabinet, allows that to unlock. You pull that out slightly, you can unlock cabinets 2, 3, 4 if present. So that's kind of how it works. And that's also kind of why you need the top cabinet drawer either slightly open or open all the way to access other cabinets. Everything's reliant on that top cabinet drawer being locked. So that's kind of how it works. But immaterial to the rest of the cabinet, this is pretty much the entire assembly for these FireKing locks. First things first, you've got what they call the post, which interacts with that the pawl mechanism. This replaces, you can screw it on and off simply. It's just easier, cheaper to manufacture that way. So there's that. Then you've got the plastic, what they call the shell, which I'm going to pull out. This is not the only thing that provides security, not in the least. This is all, you know, like I said, it's surrounded by metal and all that. This is just kind of the form factor to get her done. This is the plastic shell, and that's kind of what this post right here, which is spring loaded, kind of goes into there and locks into place. And then when you want to put a new one in, just have to push in, hear it clip into place. Now we're locked. Well, we're unlocked, but we're locked in. And then to lock back, push all the way in. And then to unlock, pull that tab down a little bit. And you can see it kind of goes down a little bit, not all the way, because if it cleared all the way, this would come out every time and people would be like, well, hey, you know, my lock fell out. So that's kind of how it works. Get it all the way out, show you. This is the assembly, this is the housing. When it's out of the housing, it looks like that, but before we get to that part, I'll show you. It's held in place right here with this kind of half moon clip that you stake into place. If you've ever seen an aircraft lock, similar thing. Actually, there's a lot of specialty cam locks that are staked into place rather than screws or bolts or anything like that. So to disassemble this, first things first, you should probably take off the post. But you'd have to physically knock this out, and I don't want to do it because this is a relatively new one. And you know, every time you remove and replace, this gets a little bit more weaker, and you have to really get creative with how you stake it. So this looks, yeah, this is factory staking, so it's never been taken apart. But to disassemble it, basically all you got to do is knock this out. Try not to damage or bend it because you're gonna have to reuse it unless you got a spare one around, and I doubt you do. And when you do that, this is what comes out. This post right here rotates with the key. There's a notch in this spring-loaded bolt right here that fits into, goes down, up and down, locked, unlocked. If you ever disassemble one though, once you pull this plug out, watch your eyes because this spring, no lie, is well over 1 inch long. Doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it should fit in there, but this thing is under heavy pressure. So watch your eyes because it'll go flying. Now, as far as this, I really don't want to take it apart, so I'm not gonna, but everything's self-contained, and it uses the same driverless principle that Medeco cam locks use. No top pins, special bottom pins with posts coming out the top. The springs fit around, so you can't bump these. They can be picked, obviously, but you can't bump them because they're driverless. There's nothing to separate. There is no shear line. In fact, the only thing that's keeping this locked is the sidebar. But they do have false gates in the pins so that it does provide some picking protection. In other words, there's not just one gate you're looking for. I mean, there's some half gates and what they call the false gates that can lock up and make you think that you're set or it's picked and all that, but you know, that's not the case. This one is obviously not going to be, oh yeah, this will be no, this is the wrong key, but obviously we're no-go right now because this is not the correct key, although it is a FireKing key and fits in there. We do not have the pins where they should be. Rekeying them though, all you got to do, pop this cap off, replace the pins with the right pins, put springs in, recap, and then get your housing back out. Obviously there's a plug in here now. Really can't mess things up as far as timing. These things really only go back one way. But that's really all there is to it. Believe it or not, these things I think retail right now on the FireKing website for $250. Just the lock assembly and the plastic housing. Very expensive. Medeco claims they don't make them. I don't believe that to be true because I know that we have probably about 10 of these in our own keyway, our special keyway, our dealer-based keyway, back from the 60s that only 8 other people have. So how'd we get them? Well, FireKing didn't make them for us, even though they are nice people. And I doubt that it would carry a UL rating unless Medeco made it for them. What I think Medeco's making for them is just this right here, just a plug assembly. FireKing in turn had their own custom parts, you know, the housing, the posts, and the plastic housing for it. And that's all well and good, but you can only get stuff brand new from either FireKing or a locksmith that sells FireKing keys, locks, components, rekeying services, things like that. Medeco will not sell it. Trust me, I've tried. But that's pretty much all there is to the FireKing. It's a very simple lock. Almost never have anything go wrong with it. More than likely, the only thing that ever will go wrong with it is somebody sells a cabinet, somebody moves a cabinet, and they don't have the keys for it. They're locked out. Or if they're lucky, they just don't have keys and it's still unlocked. In that case, if you've got the key tag, which is key tag right here, you know, that'll tell you everything you need to know to make a key. In lieu of that, oftentimes, for sure, FireKing can look up the serial number and get the key code that way. If neither are present, you can always pull the lock, ship it out to a locksmith, take it to a locksmith, somebody that's capable of decoding and making keys, or, you know, if it's a standalone, just rekeying it right then and there and making brand new keys. Or, you know, it may be cheaper depending on your circumstances to just go ahead and replace it outright. Medeco is not the only one that makes these. As I said before, 2Bar did in the past, and they still do. I know Multilock has a aftermarket cylinder that'll fit into these as well as many others, but those are the two I'm familiar with the most, and I don't know who else has what at this point, but Medeco is certainly the most popular. But that's how it works.